cherish that special moment when they wake up with beautiful women surrounding them, hungover, faded. Now where else you gonna go? Scream,
Hey, what's going on, y'all? How y'all doing out there?
That's good, man.
Um, Happy New Year to everyone.
Yeah, Happy New Year.
Hey, man. Sean, how are you?
I'm doing good, man. I'm doing great. Ready to bring in the new year on a good note. You know what I'm saying? We're only 2 days in. Everything's been good so far, at least on my end. I don't know about you.
Hey, man. Well, it's a new year, so it's an opportunity for everything to get right, for the team to get right, for the Eagles to get right, for us to be right. Hey, man. You know, we exited the last year in the whimper, but we got an opportunity to make a boom in the new year.
Well, I mean, we didn't exactly exit. We didn't exactly exit 2023 the way we wanted to either, Mark. So, yeah. So, I mean, looking forward to new beginnings.
You exited it with a win, though.
We did a little bit of redemption, and we did get a little bit of help, from the refs. Shout out to the refs for helping us clinch, the bye week. You know, they,
Mm.
the work is done. And as you know, Mark, it's going to be the first topic. We're not going to talk about it yet, but the work is done. So now they're going home. They're not going to be repping for the playoffs. So.
Hey, man. I I guess. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But hey, whatever. It is what it is. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm just trying to vibe out to the music for a second before we get started. Hey, what up, whoever is already watching and tuned in? I don't know who that is, but be sure to hit that like button. But we're not a music podcast; we're a sports podcast. So let's just go ahead and get into it.
Yep.
All right, man. So yeah, I know it's an abrupt ending to the music, but
Nah, man, we're good. We're good, man. Trying to get into these topics, man. Trying to get into these topics. All right.
yeah,
So let's talk
uh,
about it, Mark. Let's talk about it. First things first. We got the refs. The ref team is removed from the playoffs. I mean, I guess we can explain it a
yeah.
little
Brad
bit. You don't
Brad
really know
Allen,
what the team is.
Brad Allen, and his team have been removed from the playoffs, effective immediately. I guess they won't be roughing any games in the playoffs, and they have been demoted. I don't necessarily know what a demotion means. Does that mean that they'll get, like, these referees will get less games in the future to referee? I don't necessarily know what a demotion means for them, but I do know that they won't be refereeing any games in the playoffs, and that's a good thing because the thing that the icing on the cake was the Cowboys versus the Lions game, in which a controversial ending, in which they got eligible man call incorrect. Number 68 reported, and they said number 70, and nothing could have been done about it. I mean, most people that have followed sports, they kind of already know what happened there, and they already are aware of how this played out. But for those that didn't, quick synopsis was the ref, on a 2-point conversion to win the game. The Detroit Lions had a trick play in which number 68 would go out for a pass and act as a tight end, and he is normally the left tackle. On this particular play, Jared Goff tells number 68 to go report. Number 68 and number 60, I don't know why number 60 walked over to the ref, but number 68 and number 60 walked over to the ref. 68 clearly is reporting. And at the same time, number 70 is running onto the field.
Yeah.
Number 70 never runs up to the ref at all, but the referee walks away and he tells the defense to set over a loudspeaker. Number 70 is reporting it as eligible receiver. This is weird because number 70 is a guard. Um, and there's not really, I don't know any trick plays where guards go out for passes. Do you?
Nah, man, it's either a tackle or I've seen it to where it's a center. I don't think I've ever seen a guard go out for a tackle, man. I mean, go out for a catch, Mark. I've never seen that one before. That must be
Yeah.
some new shit. But so I know you asked the question. You know, obviously, you rhetorically you asked. You know, I don't know what 60 was doing out there. You know what these guys were doing out there? They were out there trying to disguise who was reporting. They didn't want the Cowboys to know who was reporting. Okay,
Right. But they have
trying to
to.
do it on a sneak tip. I'm sure this isn't the first time it's ever happened in the history of the game.
No,
So,
I'm sure it's not neither, but the referee has to report who's reporting anyway. So it doesn't.
yeah, and they say it. They say it over the loudspeaker and everything. It's a weird thing, Mark. It's you know,
Like,
yeah. I've seen it executed to perfection by the Patriots millions of times. I've seen it to where it's like, hey, they're on the goal line, they're going for two. A lineman reports it's eligible, and then they don't even use them. They don't even have them go
right.
out for a pass. Like I've seen it, and then they just set you up, and then one time it happens, and you don't know. Like you can't just if you focus on them, you know, then it kind of throws it off. You gotta do it multiple times throughout the game, in order for
Right.
it to really work. You know,
Now, here's the thing about it. The Dan Campbell, they talked about it, and other head coaches have talked about it, is that in the beginning of the game, they always tell what trick plays they have going on or what trick plays they plan on executing in the game and how it will look and blah 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 blah. So this wasn't the first that the referees were hearing of this at all either, and but some long and short, they got it incorrect. And they said number 70, even though number 68 was the one that reported. And everyone is saying, well, number 70, well, you can hear it over the loudspeaker. Appreciate it. Troy, what's good? What's going on? But yeah, you can hear it over the loudspeaker and everything. And they like, but that doesn't matter that you can hear it over the loudspeaker. The ref got it wrong. We see the proper person reporting, and the ref got it wrong. And we see number 70 walked up to him. Number 70 never said a word to him. So at the end of the day, regardless of what anyone wants to say, regardless of what backtracking the NFL wants to do after already issuing out a punishment, the referee got it incorrect, even though number 68 was the person that reported in. And so this is where things kind of got offhand, and this is why the refereeing crew is now no longer will be officiating in the playoffs. Or at least that's the icing, because this officiating crew was already on thin ice, and they were already being watched for missing multiple PI calls throughout this season.
Yeah, and not just missing them, there were game-changing missed calls towards the ends of the games. So these are game-altering calls. So that's
Right.
why they're on thin ice. And I know you. Once again, it's another question you asked earlier. You said you don't know what demoted means, and what it means as far as that them missing the playoffs and all that stuff. The way it works is they have the officiating crews. They track how many calls they miss. It gets tracked throughout the course of the year, and whichever officiating crew does the best job, i.e., the least amount of missed calls, etc., those are the referee teams that get to be playoff referee teams.
Right.
Not every team gets into the playoffs. Obviously, there's a lot less games going on week to week in the playoffs. So that's what they do. They take the best officiating crews and they schedule them for the playoff games. It sounds like this crew was already set as one of the best, or they were already selected to be one of the playoff crews. And then now they were removed as one of the playoff crews because of what happened. So I don't know if this is just par for the course as far as, hey, because of this mistake, etc. There is now another crew that has less mistakes than you, and now they're getting moved into the playoffs. Or if this is one of those things that's a just egregious thing that has been happening, and they're saying even though you guys get more calls right than other crews, the ones that you get wrong are so egregious, we have to just step in and say, forget the system. We are removing you guys from the playoffs. I don't know which one it is, Mark. I don't really care which one it is. I actually prefer for it to be the one where they say, look, we're looking you in the eyes and we're watching what you're doing, and we don't like it. You know what I'm saying? I'm hoping it's that, to where they just say, you know what? We can let this shit rock and y'all can be in the playoffs, and then we can have the entire world questioning whether or not the NFL is rigged, or we could do ourselves a favor and remove you guys from the playoffs and not leave any doubt. So, but I just have to note, this is the first time I've seen what seems to be some form of accountability for any type of referee or referee crew between NFL, NBA, baseball, etc. You usually don't see anything happen. This is the first time I'm seeing something happen. So I don't care what the decision is. I'm just glad that they made one to say, hey, look, man, we can't let y'all just go out here and ruin games.
No, 100%. I agree. I feel as though I'm glad that this was the results, man. I'm glad that this is what we're seeing happen at the end of the day. But yeah, either way, the Cowboys end up the winners of this game, and the Eagles are the losers. I mean, not the Eagles. Sorry.
Well, you see, that shit really getting it to you, ain't it?
Yeah, you know, right? You know what I'm saying? Like,
boy,
what do they call that? A Freudian slip?
Man, that is crazy, Mark. Hey, the Lions. The Cowboys wins. The Cowboys win. The Lions lose the game. All right,
right.
Let's talk about that, because it rolls right into our next topic, Mark. I don't know if you got the playoff picture pulled up right now, but if you can pull that up for me right quick while I talk about the Lions situation. Because of that game, the Lions had the potential
to be the number 2 seed.
They still had the potential to fight for the number 1.
Yeah, at that time,
very unlikely, but they had the potential to fight for the number 1, and they absolutely had the potential of being the number 2. And now both of those are gone, and now they are going to be relegated to being a wild card team. It's one of those things. I think they could have locked up the number 2 if I'm not mistaken. It would have locked them in the number 2 position if they would have beat the Cowboys, because it was head to head, and that's who they're fighting with. So yeah, it puts them in a really weird position, to where there was a lot riding on this game, and it has all come crumbling down for the Lions. So you got that playoff picture?
Yeah, I'm looking at it right now.
Okay, man, go ahead. Give us the rundown. What are we looking at for? Let's start with the NFC side of things. Who do we got where in the NFC?
All right, so and on the NFC side, we have number one. At number 1, the 49ers. And at number 2, we have the Cowboys. At number 3, now the Lions. At number 5, we have the Philadelphia Eagles. And at number 6, we have the Rams. Number 4 is not yet locked up, which is weird. And that's because in the NFC South, the Bucks and Saints, it is not quite clear yet. So it's basically between the Bucks and the Saints, which one is going to go and represent the NFC for the NFC South.
Well, let's be honest, Mark. The reason why it's like that is because the Bucks beat the Saints.
Yeah.
Because now,
They're both
if the Saints would have won that game, then they would have secured that four seed. But because they lost to the Bucks, now they're in this predicament.
yeah, and they're both sitting at 8-8. So the last game of the season will determine who goes at the number 4 seed. And currently, shout out to the Packers for pulling their crap together. They are currently sitting in for that 7th spot. We will see if they actually went out and maintain that. But on the AFC side, we have the Ravens, who are at number 1, Dolphins at 2, Chiefs at 3, Browns at 5, and again for the AFC South, it is yet another battle
It's a
between
team race, Mark.
yeah,
You got the Jags, the Colts, and the Texans all at 9-7. So
right.
yes.
And the Texans probably would be sitting a little bit higher had CJ Stroud not sat out for multiple weeks in concussion protocol. And they would probably already be locked up. But anyway, you have the Bills, who are still in the hunt, and Steelers as well. Bills are pretty much 94% guaranteed to get in. They have to win this last game against the New England Patriots, who are a terrible team right now, and Steelers go up against the Seahawks. So yeah, that's not great, you know. Not great for the Steelers, rather.
Both of those teams are fighting for a playoff spot. So these games, it seems like there's going to be a lot of games to watch, man. It seems like there's a lot of head-to-head matchups, if you will, that have playoff implications for both teams, whether they're within the same conference or not. So,
Matthew Petty says, "I hope the Bucks, because if they win in the division, San Francisco gets to come to Tampa next year, and I'll get to see them live again." Hey, man, we'll see. We'll see how that works out. I personally, I think if the Bucks win, if it is the Bucks, then it'll be Eagles, Bucks, and I see what you did there, Matthew. I see what you did there. Is he saying that the Bucks are automatically going to defeat the Eagles in the first round?
I don't know. I don't know what he's saying.
Because like in order for the Bucks to have to play San Francisco next year, don't the Bucks have to advance to the divisional round?
Look, man, I'm not.
I don't know. I'm just asking. I don't know.
I'm gonna be real honest with you, Mark. Man,
I don't know how that works. That was really big question
with the Eagles. I promise you on everything. I would hope that the Eagles would have it in them to take care of the Bucks in the first round.
Okay, no, he said no if the Bucks win their division. Okay.
Okay, there you go. See, that's it. Yeah, okay, that's what I'm saying. But I was gonna say, please, I would hope. I mean, Eagles, get your shit together, baby. You got to. You can't have those kind of questions floating around there. Can you take care of the Bucks in the first round? Don't, Mark. Hey, I'm not even gonna speak to Mark anymore. I'm just gonna speak to the viewers, man. I'm gonna let you know right now. You're gonna see a different side of Mark if the Eagles lose to Baker Mayfield, bro. You're gonna see a whole different side. Like, you've seen his ups and downs this year. You've seen him get frustrated with his team. Mark, you haven't seen Mark yet, really. You haven't seen him in complete despair unless you've seen something like this happen, which, like I said, I've seen it only once. I know how. Ask him how he feels about Andrew Bynum. You know what I'm saying? Ask him how he feels about the process in Philly. You know, but no, he might not even be an Eagles fan next year if they lose to Baker Mayfield in the playoffs.
I bleed a little bit harder for the Eagles than I do that other team, the Sixers. So that'll be a little bit different,
Look,
man.
man,
To be
I'm
honest.
just gonna give you guys some insight because this was a private conversation we had. Mark was like, "Look, man, they picketing, they picketing out there. I might go out there and pick it, dog. I might go out there and pick it. This is what it's come to, man. I gotta go out there and be the voice of the people. I want to be a part of the. Hey,
Yeah,
I ain't
man.
never been so disappointed in my team to where I felt like making a sign and putting it on a stick, Mark. That's crazy.
Uh, uh, fuck. Man. Troy says he listened to a phone call with me snapping before. I don't know what phone call that would have been, but
Hey,
I probably have. I
hey,
do that.
you're going to see it live on air if they lose to the Bucks. There's a lot of teams that Mark will accept them losing to, and it's not even about them being the Bucks. It's about Baker Mayfield being a quarterback. And I'm gonna tell you right now, that's an unacceptable loss. Like if let Bradbury get roasted, you know what I'm saying, all game, and Baker Mayfield pick on him all game, that'll be it. Mark will be tossing shit at the TV, man.
Yeah, but listen, man, to be perfectly honest, man, I don't have a whole lot of hope for this Eagles team at this point, man. I don't think that this Eagles team is capable of winning. When you because I mean we'll get into it a little bit later, but when you allow a 31st ranked offense to never have to punt the ball, like to convert every single third down,
I don't
and the
care how
only
I don't care how dynamic the quarterback is, Mark. I don't give a shit.
like
Yeah.
they converted every single third down, man. This is nuts. That's nasty. I don't know understand this football team. And people could say whatever they want, but talent wise, I feel as though the Philadelphia Eagles have the talent all the way across the field. They have the talent, um, and it literally just comes down to the talent at the play caller positions in the scheme. I feel, and I really don't want to insult. You know what? We already talked about the NFL playoff picture. Let's just go ahead and get.
Yeah, I was gonna say some more about the playoff picture, but I'm glad that you
Do you
switched
want?
to the. No, we're good. I'm glad that you switched it to the Eagles because before we even get started, Mark, I just wanted to bring up this comment, man. We really going to talk about it. The Bucks wide receivers could light up that secondary, Mark, and I just wanted to bring up. It was a comment that came up. You know what I'm saying? So I mean, let's start there, Mark. Let's start with your Eagles topic. Let's start with your secondary. How many? Like we were asking if they're still contenders, Mark, but that's secondary. Does it concern you?
Does the secondary itself concern me?
I
No,
mean, if you want to call out individual players, Mark, call them out. But I'm
bro.
saying
No. The personnel doesn't concern me.
Bradbury
It's not.
doesn't concern you.
I mean, Bradbury himself concerns me, but even when it comes to Bradbury's one individual, and it's not just him that's messing or things are happening to. It's the scheme. Like we've seen this story before. We watched it before. In 2017, when we won the Super Bowl, Tom Brady put up over 500 yards of offense. He put up over 500 yards. To do that is because our scheme is the soft zone, zero blitz, uh, bend but don't break style, right? And it was like, oh, and some people brushed it off, oh, like, oh, that's Tom Brady, okay, whatever. And then it devolved and started breaking apart, and people thought, well, maybe it's time to break this up and move on. And so Jim Schwartz left, and he was out of there, and now we got we got Jonathan Gannon, right? Jonathan Gannon in his second year, the pass rush was amazing, and they had played complementary football on offense with the time of possession. Time of possession allowed the defense to stay off the field, and it put teams in a position where they had to hold the ball for longer because they were trying to push the ball upfield more often because they you didn't have the ball a whole lot against the Eagles last year.
So you're saying
You didn't have a lot of opportunities.
so you're saying the offensive game planning allowed the defense to play the defense to be more opportunistic. It allowed the
Well,
defense to essentially it made it to where the other offense was going to play in a way to where it benefited your defense. So
exactly. That the way our offense played and the way we dominated time of possession allowed our defense to just sit back and wait because you had to come to us because you didn't have a whole lot of time. You didn't have time to just keep taking your 5, 10 yards. You had to get 20 yards. You had to get 30 yards because you may have had the ball for only 5 minutes of each quarter against us last year.
yeah,
So it played into us last year. But I told you last year in the Super Bowl that ain't going to matter against the Chiefs. That ain't going to matter one bit against them.
yeah.
Like it don't matter, and that's exactly what happened. The Chiefs took all that underneath shit, and and they ate that up, and they dominated the second half of the
Well,
Super Bowl.
but that's you can't have that type of game plan against an accurate quarterback that has guys that can do things after the catch. You cannot allow essentially a yak team. You can't allow a yak team to catch everything underneath. We seen the worst case scenario happen when you guys played the 49ers this year. You can't allow that. You have to come in with a different game plan, man. But with that said, you're talking time of possession. I know it was mentioned in another group message that we have. Arizona pretty much doubled the time of possession in the
Mhm.
against the Eagles, man, and
Right.
that's insanity. That's the Cardinals should not be able to do that to that defense. But like you said, when the offense is doing everything but running, or when the offense is putting themselves in precarious situations, um, like quarterback draws on third and long, all that type of stuff. Mark, my question for you when it comes to that then is there was a statement that was made by Sirianni in the beginning of the season that I personally I actually liked it when he said it in the beginning of the season, but now I'm starting to think it was problematic. Sirianni said we play every set of downs as if we have four downs. Do you think that mindset is now becoming problematic? Do you think that's part of the reason why the play calling is what it is? Because they feel your coaching staff feels like they can play with four downs because of the tush push.
Um.
Because
No.
the things that they're doing on third down are not to get first downs. It's my point.
No. 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 I don't. No, I don't think so. I think because that's not the issue. The four down thing isn't the issue. The issue is that the Eagles throughout the season have not played with the aggressiveness that they played with last year, and that may be partly the philosophy of the offensive coordinator because he was happy to settle for. He was like, we're in field goal range, and so that was his thought the whole time. I don't want to do something to lose this ball or whatever. Like we're going to get 3 points regardless. Like the aggressiveness of needing the touchdown or wanting the touchdown isn't there. I watched this team
Mm, yeah.
I watched this team this year, and like with a minute and 30 seconds left in the first half, kind of just run 3 run plays and let it go and let it go out and be happy to go into the second half versus hey, it's a minute and 30 seconds in the first half left. This is a great opportunity to work on our 2 minute drill when we don't have to, when it's not important. Like it's not, I mean, it's important, but it's not nearly as important as the end of the game. I look at the end of the first half. If you have the ball at the end of the first half, that is a opportunity for you to get practice reps on your 2 minute drill.
Yeah. The worst. What's
Like,
the worst that could happen, man?
right.
Like,
It's the end. You're about to go into the half. That like you need to like get those practice reps in. That's how I think. That does
yeah.
but I watched them. They're like, oh, 40 seconds left. I know we could get like 3, 4 plays off, but nope, we're just gonna go into the half. Like, I don't think that way. I don't feel as though the Eagles should think that way. And also like with that play, they were like, oh, we're in field goal range and we're up. Let's go ahead and kick the field goal. Stupid. Like, no. You like your defense hasn't been able to stop a cold. You need to get that touchdown. Like
I'm gonna
I
give
don't
you. I'm gonna give you two stats right now, and it goes to what you're talking about. Because while you said it, I wanted to bring this up. I wanted to look it up. So I looked it up. I looked up your defensive rankings, right? And you're talking about a team that doesn't have a sense of urgency to get touchdowns over field goals. That's something that you do when your defense is elite. That's something that you
right.
do when you trust your defense, Mark. My question is, where's the trust coming from? Because you guys are 28th in yards allowed, I believe, and then
Crazy.
29th in points allowed. So if that's true, then where is this unworldly confidence coming from to where you guys and it's true. I mean, we've we've seen it in I would say I've seen it in every single one of these late season losses. You guys have early opportunities in the first half to try to make an attempt to force the issue of trying to score a touchdown, and you got the play calling is ultra conservative, and then you guys are like, well, we got Jake Elliott, we'll get the 3 points.
Right.
And then in the second half, when now you need to flip a switch to turn the offense on because you're trying to keep pace, now it's like, okay, well, now we need the touchdowns. Well, now you're asking your team to play completely differently than what they were playing in the first half. You're now trying to ask them to go from cold to heated all the way up. It's strange. It's like, take the points when you have the opportunities, but you guys are just deciding to settle for field goals way too often.
Jerry, just because I'm not responding don't mean I don't see the jokes.
It's funny, yeah. Oh man,
I do want to acknowledge you. You're very funny out there.
yeah,
Um,
that's funny. I was
no,
just
100.
on that
It's
combo.
it's so many things that's wrong with this team, and very few of it is personnel. So going back to what we were saying about Bradbury, I'm not in the secondary. I'm not concerned about them because I feel as though there's things that you could do to not to say to cover them is kind of wrong, but to help them. Um, I I expressed it earlier in our fantasy football group, and I don't know if you agree with me because you didn't respond, but I'm gonna say it here. Um, One thing we know is that Bradbury is useful in the slot. So and it kind of helps him a little bit in the slot. Put him in the slot, and like that's where he should primarily be, and have somebody else out there in those man coverage situations where it's a cover three type of situation or something like that.
Yeah,
And in a situation and start calling more cover twos.
you have to have safety help over the top, man. Bradbury cannot be left out on the island on the outside. It's
Right.
crazy, Mark. And I did see the message about the playing him in the slot. I did not catch up with all the messages in there, so I don't know what else was
Yeah.
said, but I
I
did see
know.
that one.
But I'm saying it now. Like you can have them. Like, have him in the slot primarily, and if you have to play him on the outside, on the plays where you have him on the outside, make sure that the play is a cover 2, or make sure the play is a cover 4, where his job is very simple: just run backwards,
Yeah.
run backwards and cover the back. That's it. Don't have like athletically he is not. He's clearly not there anymore to where he can make those quick adjustments if need be. So, and on these plays, you need to have him when he's on the outside. It needs to be a cover 2 or a cover 4 where his task is simple.
Yeah.
Like
well, I want to bring something. I want to bring this up, Mark, because there's a lot of matchups, right? There's a lot of matchups coming down the pipeline for him in the playoffs, and this has to get rectified soon. Okay. Now, granted, let's say he's going to be on the second best receiver. Doesn't matter. He's covering either the number 1 or the number 2 on whatever team you guys are playing.
Yeah.
Talking about the Bucks now. Serious conversation. Marquise, my bad. Chris Godwin. Chris Godwin. That's a problem. That's a problem over there. Okay, we can acknowledge that. We don't even want to talk about what it would look like if it was Mike Evans over there. All right, then we're talking about. Let's even look at the Lions. Jameson Williams looks like he's finally starting to hit his stride, and I know for a fact that Bradbury can't cover him just off of speed alone. And then if he ends up on, say, Amon-Ra, you already know that's a wrap, okay? The Niners, he can't, he probably has a better chance of covering Ayuk, Debo. He could probably cover Debo better than the rest of the number 2s that he's going to see, but I still don't like him one-on-one with Debo. Is he going to tackle him after the catch? There's a lot of things. I'm looking at this, Mark, and I understand that you're saying you're not concerned about Bradbury. I don't think
it's not a lack of concern. It's just there is ways to mitigate it. There are ways to mitigate his issues. Not like his age ain't going nowhere. And he's on a team, but there's ways to mitigate it than just leaving him on the island and saying, "Good luck, motherfucker." Like,
I mean, there's ways to mitigate, but I also think it's just more of a thing to where it's like, let's say Bradbury can now mysteriously cover. That doesn't fix your defensive problems. The bigger issue with your defense is still there. And the amount of impact that Bradbury being able to cover is not going to be enough to where it's going to drastically change the outcome of this game.
No, but the issue is that without a philosophy, without a hard look in the mirror by this team, and a philosophy change.
Ooh, sorry, I got to bring this up here.
Nothing. It doesn't matter. None of it matters.
Here we go. Nah, here's the comment. I think he wants the coaching staff to know their personnel. At this point, right? We know what they're not. They're not the team. They're not the Bradbury's not the DB that you can leave by himself. You're not the team defensively that can give up the underneath, because in order to give up the underneath, you have to be able to make every single tackle, and you got to be able to do that as soon as the ball's caught. Right. There's only one team in NFL history that I've ever seen do it, and it was the 2000 Ravens. It's a very impossible task. And right now they have shown you they are not the 2000 Baltimore Ravens. You have to come up with something different.
Right, and you have to start meeting these guys play them closer, man. Make the quarterback second guess what he's seeing. He has nothing to second guess because you are 10 to 12 yards away from the receiver that he knows he's open. He knows that he's open right away because you're nowhere to be found.
There is no second read.
In order to see the cornerback and the wide receiver in the same frame, I have to zoom out. That's crazy. That's crazy.
That's funny. That's funny though. I mean, it's true, and it's. I don't know, man. But yeah, so you guys need some philosophy changes on defense. Offensive philosophy needs to complement what the defense is trying to do, or it should at least complement it into what it complement it in a way to where it masks the defense's weaknesses.
Right.
Um,
But
so yeah,
but
it seems. Yeah.
I mean, but that will also be require them playing into the offense strength of running the ball, and it will require the Eagles to like the Eagles have so many problems because they also have a problem when it comes to just personnel usage. Like maybe you were maybe you were saving DeAndre Swift to make sure that he makes it into the playoffs. I'm going to give you the benefit of that doubt. Come that wild card round, if I see Gainwell used more than 32% of plays, I'm going to be that crazy fan that punches his TV.
Look, man, it's crazy, man. I just it must
There's
be
no
nice.
reason why Gainwell should be. There's no reason why Gainwell should be utilized 45% of snaps or 40% of snaps. That shouldn't be a thing. There's no reason why on a 3rd and 20, even if you're going to pass to your running back, you pass to Gainwell, who goes down on first contact every single time. You can't point to a play where you seen Gainwell break a tackle.
I just want to bring this up because this is a wild. So Jerry here says Swift needs 25 touches. Mark,
Easily.
have you seen Swift get anywhere near 25 touches this entire season?
Yes.
How many times?
I saw it. What was it? Game 3.
Yeah,
when he had
game.
like 200 something yards.
Yeah, I remember that game.
Why that happened? Because Gainwell was injured. Can Gainwell get injured again, please? Like, no.
Oh man.
No. Knock on wood. In all seriousness, I do not want Gainwell to be injured. But this is where you're pushing the fan base or pushing me as a fan to where I'm like, dog, I want something wild to happen just so you can get out your own way. Yeah. Like, I want you to be forced to do the right thing because you're not going to do it on your own.
Yeah. So, back to the point, you guys, you saying you got to get out of your own way. You don't want to see Gainwell get 32% of the touches. You already know it's going to be good.
No, I want him around 32%. I don't want him around 40, 45.
Okay, my bad. But you're probably going to get disappointed. It must be nice.
To be clear to anyone that's watching, because I know some people will be like, well, he only got 6 carries. I don't care how many carries he got. I'm not talking about carries. I'm talking about snaps. I don't want to see him 40 to 45% of the time. Hey, here's another thing for people out there, or for the coaches out there, for anybody that may be listening. You make yourself predictable anytime that you are flipping running backs in and out. When you're flipping Swift out and if you have Gainwell in for passing plays and you have Swift in for running plays, guess what? Guess what the defense knows? Guess what the defense knows what you're about to do?
Nah, that's yeah. This is the thing that
they can see the personnel change just like we on TV can.
Okay, I'm gonna bring up 2 points along this topic. One of them is gonna be the running back situation there, because if you ask me, DeAndre Swift and Rashad Penny are equally as good, if not better,
in the pass game.
as far as catching the ball out of the backfield.
Yes.
So what do you need Gainwell for? Like, people forget that Rashad Penny is on that team, and Rashad Penny, like DeAndre Swift, he can run between the tackles and he can catch the ball. Like, DeAndre Swift can do everything else though. So it's like you have Rashad Penny. If anything, if you're gonna switch out, and maybe give DeAndre Swift a breather, it should be Rashad Penny coming in there and not Gainwell. Because like I said, there's no threat of him running. There's no threat of Gainwell running when he's in the game. Even if you do hand it off to him, they're not worried about that. Like you said, he goes down on the first line of contact.
Get your little 3 to 4 yards and go down on first contact.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that was the first point I wanted to make. But the second point is really a question mark. Because when you're winning, these types of things in a locker room are never a problem. JJ Arcega-Whiteside and guys of that nature that happen to be a fan favorite of the owner, but happen to be crippling the team. When you're winning, those things, everything is all good. Everything's all great. But when you're losing, I wonder how that dynamic in the locker room changes. Do you think that the Gainwell usage, the coaching, all of these little things that are happening, do you think that at some point that any of this stuff will become a problem in the locker room? Not to say that the locker room be divided, but just the locker room environment change in a way to where it's going to affect the play on the field.
It already has.
It already has? Okay.
It already has. Look at the way that this Eagles team carries themselves on and off the field, like when they're walking on and off the field.
Okay.
Now versus earlier in the season. Look at how AJ Brown takes off his helmet. Look at Devonta Smith when he's standing there. They look like they know exactly whatever we're about to do. This shit is stupid. Like that's like they like this shit is dumb. Like that's pretty much
for a second. Yeah, I can see you just flash back to the flight line days real quick. I can feel
100%.
it. I just seen it happen live. It was like, man, you already know this shit about to be stupid. I'm like, damn, I know that feeling too. But you stuck. You just like, ain't nothing I can do about it though. I guess whatever they tell me to go out there and do, I'm gonna go do it. Like
100%. 100%. That was I literally thought about. I was like, man. This is exactly what it was like on the flight line. The moment you just already knew that this shit is about to be dumb, and I'm about to be told to do something dumb. Yeah. Because of who is in charge of me, I know somebody's about to tell me to do something stupid.
Yeah. And having any faith that they would do anything of the contrary, it's just not. It's unwise. You're just gonna put yourself through unneeded stress because you're over here hoping that, man, you know what? Nah, man, they gotta see that if we do it this way, it'll be better. Like, no, they don't gotta do nothing. Right. They don't gotta do nothing but tell you what to do.
Or like the person that you were told to work with on this particular day, you like, God damn it, I'm about to be here for 5 hours doing this job. Like you knew it. Like you knew it.
Hey, Mark, you know how many days I pulled up to the shop, sat in the car for like 15 minutes. Like, hey, I'm 15 minutes early, but I'm not because I'm walking in 1 minute before the clock hits. Like, like that's that shit. Like you can feel it. You feel it. It's said as soon as you pull into the parking lot, you just like, you know what I'm saying? Like, so you saying that's the type of energy they have when they're coming out to the field? Okay.
Yeah. Like,
see, Jerry said Fletcher Cox already has mentioned it. I don't know what comments he's talking about. Do you know?
I don't know the comment neither, unfortunately. If you can, Jerry, if you could comment a link to the comment, that'd be great. But I really don't know the comment. myself.
Yeah, Jerry said that sounds familiar. That's funny. Yeah, yeah. You still living in it, Jerry? Not me. I'm not living in it no more. I'm out. I'm out the
But
game.
yeah, man, like that's
But
like I'm not like it's so unfortunate being a fan of of like yo, if we were a bad team, this would be so much easier to take. But the fact of the matter is, we we are Ferrari with we are a Ferrari with an elderly woman driving. Like
yeah, that's funny. You have a lot of potential to go somewhere, but you're going 10 under the speed limit, Mark. You go, you go, you're going 10 under the speed limit. All you gotta do is hit the gas. That's it. It's right there. The pedal's right there.
like yo, like and she's like, oh, I'm familiar with stick. Like, you know what I mean? Like where's the stick shift? No, no, baby, it's paddle shift. What paddles? What's that? Like that's what I feel like is happening here. Like you don't understand how any of this work. Please get out
So,
the driver's
so
seat.
you're saying Nick Sirianni doesn't understand the nature of the vehicle that he's in right now with the
I
Philadelphia
don't
Eagles
see that
roster?
here. Like I don't want to put it all on Nick Sirianni because I do not believe it's all him. I believe that like this is my personal belief. The Eagles and back to the defensive thing and the defensive philosophy. The Eagles have maintained the same bend but don't break soft zone philosophy since 2016. Like they sent like there's no way that you go through three coordinators, two different head coaches with the same defensive philosophy and it's the head coach's fault.
Yeah, so Troy, yeah, the fact that Sean's Niners are clicking again makes this so sickening. You know what? You know what, man?
I think it's the GM. Like I think when it comes to defensively, I think the philosophy issues is the GM, and I think that part of the main reason why they hire first year guys like they hired Doug Peterson, who was like relatively unknown at the same time. Like, oh, this is your first time head coaching. They hired Nick Sirianni. This is your first time head coaching. Oh, this is your first coordinator job. Oh, this is your first OC job. The reason why they keep doing this is because I could push you around. I could tell you what to do because you're just happy to be here.
Yeah. I just once again, you just took a guy off the street. You just pulled him out of a Honda Accord and put him in a Ferrari. Whatever issues that Ferrari has, he don't care about it. Whatever you're telling, hey man, you can have this Ferrari under one condition. You drive it. You know what I'm saying? You drive it how I tell you to drive it. Like, all right, cool. I'm still riding around in a Ferrari, I guess. Like, so yeah. So what I'll say is, I know you don't want to hear this, Mark, but it sounds like y'all are becoming the Cowboys.
Yeah.
A team that hires coaches that can be puppets purely for the puppeteer factor. You know what I'm saying? Look, we don't want you having a mind of your own. We want you to do.
Yeah,
what
we
want you
don't
do
have to play bend but don't break. No, I'm sorry. I'm commented that. But yes, no, 100%, Sean. Correct. Correct. I 1,000% right now feel like the Eagles are the Cowboys with Jason Garrett as the head coach.
Oh, that's disgusting. That's got to feel dirty, Mark. It's got to feel dirty. Your camera.
Yeah, I see.
Yeah. All right. Yeah, but yeah, that's got to feel filthy, man. Like, I don't know if I could sit and watch my team become the Cowboys. Yeah. I'll say that it's got to be an unsettling feeling. Something has to change. Like, I don't know if you can ask Sirianni to do anything in this situation. I don't know if you can ask the coordinators to really do anything in the situation, Mark. I understand why you have the feeling you do about the team because none of this seems fixable. It's very unlikely that Sirianni or any of these guys decide to go rogue and say, you know what, screw it. I know we're all here to do what we're told, but I'm going rogue and I'm just gonna change shit. I'm gonna change the script in the middle of a game.
Right.
You know? Because let's be honest, Mark, you know what happens when you do that? If it works, good for you. If it doesn't work, you're probably not gonna have a job. So that's how that works, you know.
Yeah.
You went off script and you fucked it up. Okay, you're out of here. Like that's it. You gone now. So in right now with the state of the team, people are already blaming all the coaching staff. They're already, you know, like everybody's on thin ice there. Maybe not Sirianni as much as the rest of them, but Sean Desai, I've never seen a coordinator get benched. That's crazy. So it's already a crazy scenario there, man. It says Cox was talking about the internal finger pointing amongst players December 17th. Yeah. So
Yeah.
And like I said, you have to shore this up now while you still have vets, Mark. I'm gonna be honest.
Hey, Troy. The worst part of this, and any Eagles fan that's watching this, the worst part of this is that this season could people are talking about. Some people think Travis Kelce is going to retire. That's incorrect. The Kelce brother that's going to retire is Jason Kelce, and that's the worst part of that is that Jason Kelce, he already has one foot out the door because he's been beating his body up for a long time. The worst part of this is that you're not going to get an old man with a Super Bowl ring already on his finger to sign up for buffoonery. You're not going to get him to sign up for buffoonery again. This may very well be. This could be his last season, depending on how we end this thing.
You know what that reminds me of, Mark? I remember during a time when they were doing the cutbacks in the military, right? In 2013, 2014. I knew a dude that was 16 years in, or I think he was either at 15, I think he's at 15 and a half. If he was at 16, they would have let him put in for early retirement. But he was at 15 and a half. And I remember looking at him and he said, look, they might as well let me go because regardless of whether I get to retire or not, I'm out. And I'm like, dog, you only got 4.5 years left. What are you talking about? And he was like, nah, man, I ain't sticking around for this nonsense. Like, I know what it is. I know that I can't deal with it. And guess what? I could either go out here with a retirement or not. It don't matter to me, but there's nothing that you can do monetarily. There's nothing that you can say to me that's going to make me stay in this situation. And like you said, when you're talking to a veteran player who has a ring that's also a future Hall of Famer, you more than likely a future Hall of Famer. You're not, like you said, he ain't sticking around for the nonsense. You might say to yourself, man, but he still has some game to be played. He can play another 3 years if he wants to.
And on top of that, a person with small children.
Yeah, exactly.
Like with young small children.
He's like, you got 3 years in you. Physically, yes. Emotionally and mentally, I'm not putting up with this. I'm out. Like, you know, when you hit your breaking point, and when you're that deep in your career field, you just know, man. And I've seen it too many times where, you know, somebody else might think you can stay longer, and you know in your heart of hearts that you're done. So, I'm saying it's important to get the stuff figured out while the veteran leadership is on his team, because you have for the important leadership positions, you have a relatively young team behind these vets. When Fletcher Cox is gone and when Kelce is gone, who's really gonna be the voice of the locker room? That's the things that I'm concerned with. And then after that, you know what happens when those vets leave? The young players start saying, "Well, I want my bag. I'm out. I want to be on a better team instead of me sticking around and try to figure this shit out. I'm trying to win a championship now. I can see this whole thing crumbling, Mark, very soon, within the next year or two.
The culture is pretty much done.
Yeah.
You got to figure, like, Doug, You got this year, maybe next year.
Yeah, and he said
Right.
this, and I agree with Jerry here. He said they both can walk at the same time. I think so too, and that's what I'm saying. It's a concern. Talent wise, you guys got the DT situation figured out. You
No,
got the
he's
defensive line figured
talking
out.
about both Kelseys. I don't think Travis
Oh,
walking
you can't
away
possibly
anytime.
talk about Travis ain't going nowhere, man. Travis,
I
like I
don't
said,
think I don't think
unless
Travis is
he
walking away anytime soon.
unless Travis is already married to Taylor Swift, that I don't see him walking away. But
Like at the end of the day, Travis got legacy to play for. Like because he could literally end up being better or end up statistically better than Tony Gonzalez.
Gonzalez, and let's be real, what that means though is I think if I'm not mistaken, Tony Gonzalez, when it comes to receiving yards, is either fifth or somewhere around there, fifth or sixth. Like you end up, Travis Kelsey passes Tony Gonzalez. You're talking about being a top four, possibly top three pass catcher all around of all time. So yeah, if you have stuff like that on the line, that's something to play for, man. Uh, uh, so you want to continue talking about this, or you want to move on?
No. I feel as though I've given this the proper energy, and I feel as though I have. It may not have been concise, but it was clear. So
Yeah. Okay. Um, Yeah, I was gonna talk when the playoff picture stuff was up. I was gonna talk about dark horse teams, but you know what? We can save that for next week once the
no,
playoff
go
picture.
ahead. What do you want to say
Playoff
about
picture's not even clear. I can't even tell you who's in it. But I mean,
Okay.
fuck it. I mean, like I said, we can save that for next time. We're gonna go and get into this CMC stuff. So CMC did not have an MVP season, regardless of what other people may think. All right, his stats and his impact do not hold up to the MVP running backs of past. Okay, um, real quick, in the past, in this modern era of football, whenever a running back has won the MVP, it was a scenario to where the voters had to give them the MVP. We already know that this is a quarterback-driven league. We already know that everything is about the quarterback. We already know that the quarterback is the most important position on the field, and they have the most impact over wins and losses.
Mhm.
That's how the voters feel. That's how everybody feels. So they are always going to lean on the best quarterback. Okay, MVP is essentially, without really saying it, it's an MVP. It's a quarterback award. All right, it's a quarterback invitational every year. So they already don't, and we already talk about all the time about how devalued the running back position is and how nobody cares about them. So you have an uphill battle already as a running back. But when you look at seasons like Adrian Peterson running for 2,000 yards off of a torn ACL, didn't even know if he was going to be able to be the same back, and he comes back and he runs for 2,000 yards, and then in his final game of the season, they need that game. They need that win in order for them to make it into the playoffs. They were playing the Packers in Lambeau, and if they won that game, which they did, they end up having to go to Lambeau to play the Packers in the playoffs. He runs for over 200 yards, I think over like 230 yards, almost breaks the single season record. That's the type of year that we're talking about. That's a year where they're like, okay, we have to give it to him. 2,000 yards off of an ACL. You know, there's another one. Thank you, Troy. LT, 28 touchdown season. He had 28 rushing touchdowns. He had 3 receiving touchdowns, 2 passing touchdowns. Yeah, that's a thing. The season before that, Sean Alexander,
27 touchdowns.
record. What's up?
27 touchdowns.
27 touchdowns. Sean Alexander had 27 touchdowns the year before, but not just 27 touchdowns. He had 1,800 yards rushing. Okay, so once again, these are the type of seasons that forced the voters to vote for a running back for MVP. They're not just going to give it to them. their hand has to be forced. Okay, and these are the scenarios that have forced their hands. Somebody's having a legendary season. This is not a legendary season. This is not this is not a Hall of Fame calling card season. And that's what you need as a running back in order to win the MVP, Mark. As a running back.
All right. Playing like I wholeheartedly agree with you. But playing devil's advocate here, Christian McCaffrey, he does have, in doing the research for this, as you know, Christian McCaffrey does have, I guess he has noteworthy ball carrying average. His average is 5.4 yards a carry. That is greater than the LT season, than the Sean Alexander season. It's also greater than the Marshall Faulk season. He averages, I think he averages more yards per carry than everybody that has won the MVP. Every running back that has run the MVP, except for Adrian Peterson, who averaged 6 yards a carry at that time. And he is also doing it on less carries as well. He has 272 total carries right now. So that puts him at the year that LT won it, he was at 348. So let's do I could do the quick math on my calculator here. 348 times 5.4. That would put him at 1879. That would put him at 60 yards over LT when he won it.
Yeah.
So what he is doing is great, but he has not provided the opportunity to be great.
Yeah. And I want to go back to, and that's a perfect segue into what I wanted to talk about when it comes to the two things I mentioned. I said he doesn't have the stats and he doesn't have the impact.
Right.
We talked about the impact. Sean Alexander, when he got his MVP, he was able to carry them to a number one seed and then also a Super Bowl appearance. Adrian Peterson took a team that had no business being in the playoffs to the playoffs. Okay, right. You know what I'm saying?
And LT carried. It's the San Diego Chargers. They were the number one seed in the AFC that year.
Yeah, exactly. So the impact has to be there. And when you look at, and you can say, well, look, the Niners are the number one seed. That is true. But to your point, Mark, he does not have the attempts. He has not been given the same opportunity as these guys. The reason why
that also speaks to his need and necessity, because that means they have other people to utilize if he's not getting that amount of carries.
Exactly. It's because they have the ability to go away from him. It's because the other players that he's on a team with are also capable of being dangerous, and they can go to. It's a balanced situation there. All of these other running back situations, very unbalanced. Barry Sanders' 2,000 yard season, they didn't have nothing else going on. Right. You know what I mean? These are the Terrell Davis. And say what you want about John Elway. Terrell Davis' 2,000 yard season, him running and them riding on the back of Terrell Davis is the reason why they were able to not only go to those two Super Bowls, but win them. Elway ain't never won a Super Bowl without that. Like, his impact was seen and it was quantified.
Terrell Davis attempts in 1998, 392.
But you see what I'm saying? Like
No,
it's
no, that's the point. That
that's
is
ridiculous.
almost 400 carries in a
Yeah,
season is to your point.
yeah, that's a crazy statement, Troy. You said our backup running back is nice. I guess people forget Eli Mitchell being our starting running back. Like Eli Mitchell for his career averages 6.3 yards per carry. He ran for 1,000 yards in a season where he didn't even start half the season. So like, yeah, our Elijah Mitchell is great, but he's still not CMC. But like once again to the point. Like we CMC, his impact on the team, albeit very helpful, it's not the same impact as previous running back MVPs. Like these are the things that the voters are going to look at, and if they compare it to Lamar Jackson, because this is all they're going to look at when they compare it to Lamar Jackson beating the Niners. Wins as a quarterback stat. That's what they say. Lamar Jackson beating the Niners, and then him putting on a show. Because let's be honest, after he beat the Niners, it was still a lot of people on the fence. Hey, man, the defense got 5 picks. Hey, man, like I think I totaled it up. They got 33 points that game, 17 points off of turnovers. Lamar only produced 1 touchdown that didn't come off of a turnover. So all that got cleared up when he had a perfect game versus Miami. So like you compare what I'm talking about now with CMC versus the running backs that passed that won MVP. And then you also look at, hey, they're just clamoring to give a quarterback the award. Purdy was leading in voting. And then now you have Lamar leading in voting. Like they're clamoring to give it to a quarterback, and Lamar gave them a reason. So, yes, sadly to say, like I said, anybody thinking that CMC has a chance to get MVP, I don't think there's a chance at all.
No, I would have to tend to agree with you. CMC, like, I mean, we already talked about it. Like, his numbers just don't add up to MVP quality for comparison to running backs of old. And but that is also, but you could also say the same for the quarterback position, is that their numbers just don't add up to the quality that it should for
Yes,
for past MVPs. Excuse
but
me.
here's an equivalent that I can give you. People bring up the 2008 season with Peyton Manning. Peyton Manning, I looked it up. I believe Peyton Manning had 7 fourth quarter drives for victories that year. So statement wins is something that quarterbacks have the ability to put on their MVP resume that running backs do not. And Lamar has statement wins now. So that is the thing that I would say pushes that has been shown to push a quarterback into that MVP slot, even with quote unquote subpar stats, is if you have statement victories. We can talk about the Aaron Rodgers year too. Statement victories that's the only time they want to use the eye test, Mark. Statement victories, and that's what Lamar has now with the Niners victory in the Dolphins victory. So that's the edge. That's the thing that's going to give them the edge.
Right. All right. So unfortunately, the MVP race, in my opinion, is just pitiful all the way around. I wish we could just be like, we're not going to give out an MVP this year. Nobody really deserves it. Let's go ahead and hang this up till next year.
Yeah.
And but I'm all for Tyreek Hill. How far is he away from 2,000 yards, 300 yards or something like that?
Yeah. He's, he got slowed up by injury. So, he's a little bit out there. Give me a 300-yard game from Tyreek.
Yeah, exactly. Give us a 300-yard game, Tyreek, so we can have a real MVP.
That'll do it. Hey, you can't argue with that, right? Close out the season with 300 yards for a receiver. Something that's only been done once before. So yeah, nah, that
Yeah,
would do it.
go ahead and give us a 2,000-yard season, and I'm all for Tyreek. Tyreek, go ahead and get that 240 yards. If that's true, that's all you
Come
need.
on, Mike McDaniel. You know what I'm saying? Go ahead and hook that young man up, man. Hook him up, man. Stop playing. I want to see that play calling.
All right. So next up on the docket is games to watch for Week 18. All right. All right. So
I don't know if you got the schedule up. I got the schedule up.
I'm pulling it up now. I was looking at yesteryear.
Yeah. That's funny. Yeah, so
all right, so Saturday, Steelers versus Ravens. Ravens are locked at number 1, right? Or do they have nobody's
no,
close.
Ravens are locked. That they clinched when they beat
Miami.
They beat Miami. That's when they clinched. So
all right, so that's a pointless game. Ravens are going to sit everybody. Steelers are going to end up getting an auto win. But the Texans versus Colts, both teams are playing for their playoff lives here. That will be at 8:15 on Saturday.
yeah.
That'll be an interesting game to watch. CJ Stroud versus the backup guard. Ah, shit! I just did it, and I do not like doing that. CJ Stroud versus the Colts, and Gardner Minshew versus the Texans.
You didn't want to do the quarterback versus the quarterback thing, Mark. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, no. I've talked about it many times. Hey. That's not a thing, and it's not real.
I'm playing your defense, and you're playing my defense.
Right? That's not.
Oh man, I hate it too, Mark.
But quarterback, show me a quarterback that lines up at the cornerback position, and then we could talk about it.
Yeah. So
that's a tongue twister there. Quarterback, cornerback.
Yeah. Okay, so we got another playoff game here with the I want to skip over the Bucks versus the Panthers, but we got Browns versus Bengals. That's another playoff game. Has some the Bengals need to win if they want a chance, but I think the Bengals need help. Are they still in the hunt, man? I should have kept that up. Anyway, but you got Lions, Vikings. That's pretty much a wash. Patriots, Jets. Nobody wants to see that football game at all. Nobody wants to see that end game score of 3-6. Here we go. We got Falcons, Saints. Whatever.
Let's look at
it has playoff implications because the Saints need a win. So, what do you want to look at?
Well, I was going to say that if the Dolphins win, they can lock. The Dolphins should, even though I think they already have that seed already locked up, they should start everybody this weekend because they can lock the Bills out of the playoffs with a victory.
Mark, you know how this goes, and this is the craziest thing to me. Every time I've seen this happen, a team has an opportunity to knock out a division rival from the playoffs, right? And then what happens is that team then says, nah, it's cool. We're just going to rest everybody. That other team gets in, right? The lesser team gets in, and then that lesser team defeats the better team in the playoffs. It happened with the Vikings and Bears. It happened with the Steelers and Browns. It happens every single time, Mark. I just don't understand why teams don't take this seriously.
The Dolphins need to take this game seriously and eliminate the headache. Eliminate the headache right when you can right now. Get them out. You don't
want to play them 3 times. You don't want to play anybody 3 times, man. That's going to
walking wounded or not, take
Nah,
them seriously and get them out of there.
you have
Get
to
them
win
the
that
fuck out
game,
of
man.
there.
I've seen it too many times, Mark. Every single time they regret it. So, like I said, I'm just talking about the eight. Oh man, but let's move on. Let's move on. Let me look at these other games. What do we got? We got another important one here. Seahawks fighting for the
This.
playoff line. What's up?
Oh no, I was going to say Cowboys Commanders game is important, but it's not. It's only important for the Cowboys. It's not important for anyone else.
Well, Sam Howell. They say Sam Howell is a gamer. You know, I think Terry McLaurin also wants to play. Like I mean, this is a losable game for the Cowboys.
Hold on, no, Cowboys and Commanders play at the same time. Now, this is what I think should happen. I think the Eagles should act like they're going to play their starters and act like they're going to go for that number 2 seed. But what the Eagles should do is play their entire backup. Like, I mean, all the way across the board, play all backups and just all this week and next week work on a game plan for the playoffs. Like, because you need to change your philosophy. That takes at least 2 weeks.
So they should just tank it against the Giants this week?
Yeah, just tank it against the Giants. Settle for the 5th seed because it is what it is, man. Like, and hope that the Cowboys have a random tough game against the Commanders. and like that's it. Like that's it, dog. That's all you need. That's what you should do.
That's
you need
crazy.
to you in the playoffs anyway, and you know that you have deeper issues than being able to win a game. So you are essentially in preseason mode again. Like that's essentially what you are. You're in preseason mode to where you have to reestablish what are you doing like to win games.
Yeah.
So you can't do that in a week.
Yeah.
That takes at least 2 weeks to do.
Yeah.
So you have to let this game go and just prepare for that.
That shit ain't happening. But that's
I know.
But I will say this. Okay, so I'm looking through these games. There's so many games with playoff implications. Jags, Titans. We said Seahawks are fighting for the playoff lives. Packers as well. We got Packers versus the Bears. The Bears they've taken great joy in playing spoiler this year. The Bears have. Then you have the Broncos. Well, I think they're done. Excuse me. Yeah, but that's pretty much it. You know, everybody else. I guess the Rams playing for a position. My game to watch, Mark, straight up, is going to be the Colts-Texans game because they have a 3-way tie with 9-7 records going on between the Texans, Colts, and Jags. And the Jags happen to be playing the Titans, which they don't have anything to play for, but it's a division game. So you got two division matchups in one division where every single both games matter, and 3 out of the 4 teams are playing for something. That's pretty much what I'm going to be watching. I'm going to be watching that the AFC South situation this weekend.
Yeah.
What you got? What you watching?
I am watching. I just said it. I'm watching Colts Texans. Colts Texans. Man. That is the game to watch for me. Colts versus the Texans.
Got it. So that's simple enough, man. But I mean, I'll be watching everything, man. But that's what I'm gonna be focusing on.
Oh no, I'm sorry. Bears Packers. You said that, right?
I said the Bears they've been enjoying playing spoiler this year, and you got the Bears versus the Packers, and the Packers are fighting for a spot. I believe that the Bears are going to win this game. I just feel it.
Hey, man.
Packers have to show me that they own the Bears without Aaron Rodgers being there.
Hey, Jordan Love has already continued to the tradition so far.
He has. He looked great. But I'm just saying the Bears have been looking like they're enjoying playing spoiler. They've been winning games they ain't got no business winning.
Right. You're right.
And the defense looked like defense of old. So I just feel like this ain't gonna be a cakewalk. It is gonna be a test, man. But
You're absolutely right. All right, man. That's it for the game. That is it for games to watch on week 8. But hey, man, NFL season is starting to come to a close, or at least it's starting to reach a crescendo. And NBA, so that means that it's now time to talk a little bit of NBA on this show. And one thing that I want to talk about is that I do not believe, or up until this point, I have not believed in the Clippers since the addition of James Harden. And it seems like they have figured things out to some degree. Now, I have said before that it will work. It will look like it's going to work, and so far, that's where we are. But it looks like it is working great right now for the Clippers, thanks to Russell Westbrook sacrificing his playing time for the greater good of the team. Russell Westbrook, since moving himself to the sixth man, the Clippers are 12-2. Sean?
yeah, so this is what I'll say, man. When we talk about sustainability of the way that they're playing right now in the lineups and everything, right? In the rotations, excuse me. Um, the thing that concerns me the most for them is Ty Lue. Okay, Ty Lue was forced to polish a turd, essentially. He was forced in a situation to where he has to make sure he doesn't piss off, you know, James Harden, but then at the same time, he need to make sure that they can generate wins. Okay,
Right.
Russ helped him out. He said, "I'll go to the bench," and then he took it a further step, which I give Ty Lue credit. He said, "Nah, we're gonna pull Harden partway through the first, and we're gonna let Russ come in and let him finish out the first quarters and all that stuff." Right. So very, very clever of him. He figured out a way to to escape, that rock and a hard place. But the one thing I know about Ty Lue, Mark, is he is a playoff rotation tinkerer. Okay.
Mhm.
If there's one thing that Ty Lue will not do, he will not sit down in watching lineup not working in the playoffs. He won't be able to watch it without saying to himself, I'm gonna try this, or I'm gonna try that. It happened last year with the Clippers in the playoffs. It happened when he was coaching the Cavs. It's something that he does. It's part of what he does. It's one of the things that I think he does well when it comes to coaching, right? So my question, that's my question as far as the sustainability goes. When we get to the playoffs, and let's say they end up in a situation where they're down 2-1. Ty Lue decides, hey, I want to do something different with the lineup. How is James Harden going to react? Or is Ty Lue able to come up with lineup rotation changes that will somehow be able to work but still appease James Harden?
Well, I think that's the bigger issue. The bigger issue is how will James Harden, like, if for some reason James Harden isn't working as is, or it isn't working with James Harden as is. I don't see James Harden's not going to do what it takes. Like, if to continue these things on, he's going to make sure that he's in the starting role regardless, or he's going to throw a fit to be in the starting role regardless. And I don't have a lot of faith in James Harden, the person, to make the team sacrifices required to better the team. So it just is what it is. So like I said before, I don't see this working in the long run because of, and it's because of James Harden. I don't believe in James Harden as a personality to be able to put his ego to the side and do what's best for the team.
You talking about the guy that said, "I am the system"? That guy?
Yeah,
Okay,
that
yeah.
guy.
Want to make sure we're
Yeah.
talking about this person.
So yeah,
Yeah,
that guy.
yeah.
I don't believe in that guy. And I also when it comes but hey, maybe James Harden has heard the things that have been said about him. He's he's heard heard the ether that was dropped on him by that announcer for TNT or whatever
Oh
channel that
yeah,
was.
yeah. That was wild. That's it. Yeah, that is
Like
true. Yeah, that was
like
wild.
he's heard all those things. So maybe he decides that he'll be a team guy this year just to spite all the naysayers.
Yeah.
Like
Well,
maybe he will decide to be because he's taking a little less shots this year, although he's not shooting at a very efficient clip for the most part, I don't think. I've been looking at games and I've seen quite a few games where he's 5 for 18 or he's 4 for 12 or some those numbers are around there. Like he's not shooting very efficiently this year or whatever. So we'll
see, this is one of those things where we're gonna see whether he has it, where he's keeping his ego or not. Because let's be honest, Mark, they're winning. It's working, regardless of poor shooting, his poor shooting nights, and there will come a time to where James Harden has to decide whether or not his plummeting stats matter.
right.
He has to like we know that it's come out that it mattered to him that he wasn't an all-star. So I can imagine seeing his shooting percentages drop might bother him. So yes, he's gonna have to decide. But it's like it might bother you, but you guys only lost 2 games with it going that way. So can you put that aside, man? But or will you ask for the game plan to change so that you could, be better in your bag, right?
Right.
So yeah. With that said,
with,
I saw Jerry.
with that also being said, one thing I don't like, you brought up Ty Lue, and one thing I don't like is that something that I'm watching continuously, Harden's in the game, and like either they're coming back from being down, or they're creating a lead when Westbrook is in the game. Either Westbrook is bringing them back from being down, or they're creating a lead with Westbrook in. But then they remove him, and that lead gets diminished, or that comeback gets diminished, and it's just it's frustrating to watch. It's frustrating to watch. I mean, it's working. They're 12-2, but when you watch them in and they're cooking, and then he comes out and is not quite as efficient, it's frustrating. But
Yeah. So, but yeah, I wanted to go back to one of these comments. Jerry made mention of Embiid. He said Embiid don't either. I think he was mentioning.
talking about Harden,
He was talking about the ego.
yeah,
And now this is where I would say I feel contrary. And this is going to lead us into our next topic. I need Embiid to play with an ego, Mark. That ego is what I wish I would have seen in in the last 3 games of the series versus Boston last year. That ego is what I want to see from Embiid, because he's such a dominant player when he plays that way. And if we're going to run the offense through you, then yes, we need that to happen in a dominant way. Like the difference between him and Harden is I think Harden adds more to a team when he's taking 15 to 18 shots and distributing. I believe that Embiid has a bigger impact on the overall success of the team when he's dropping 50. So I need Embiid to have that ego going into games in the playoffs. So that's the way I see it. So like I want you to get your stats. When you get your stats, we win. You know what I'm saying? So it's different. It's a totally different dynamic, considering that James Harden is a point guard. But so let's get into that, Mark. Let's talk about the Sixers. The Sixers being the best in the East, Mark. Right now, the East looks crazy. You got the Sixers, and then there's everybody else. As good as Boston looks, Westbrook. Okay, Westbrook isn't getting true 6-man minutes. His minutes are so inconsistent. That's where Westbrook's situation is going to be what it is. But back to what I was saying. Sixers, and then there's everybody else. As good as Boston looks, Boston is not competing with the Sixers right now. Celtics do not look as good. We don't know what the hell is going on in Milwaukee, but that don't look good either. This looks like you thought it was crazy when Milwaukee lost in the first round last year. It's going to look even worse this year, okay? Milwaukee needs to figure out what's going on with them. But
we already know what's going on with Milwaukee. They're offensively, they're playing too nice with each other. Somebody needs to pick who's the alpha. So like that when it comes to offensively, somebody has to pick the alpha, and Giannis needs to pick himself, and then secondly, you have to find somebody out there to give you some defense.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. There's two things wrong with the situation, and I feel like it's the same two things that was wrong with Miami when LeBron and D Wade linked up in the first year. It's the same two things. Number one, offensive philosophy. What is your identity? That Miami team, as good as they were that first year, they didn't have an identity. Let's be honest. They would just run up and down the court, fast breaking. Right? That's what they were doing. They didn't really have an identity, especially offensively. There was games where D Wade was the closer. There was games where LeBron was the closer. We didn't know what was going on. Nobody knew who the closer was. And all the way up until the NBA Finals, we didn't know who the closer was. The identity is big. They need to figure out their identity, especially offensively. And as a team, they need to figure out their identity. Are you going to continue to attempt to try to figure out the defensive situation? Or are you going to say, look, man, we're going to come out here and outscore everybody efficiently? You have to decide. You have to decide what you're doing, Mark. But with that said,
let me ask you: is there something that Milwaukee could give up, or is there something that, is there something Milwaukee could give up, or is there somebody floating out there that could help them defensively?
I mean, I still just personally believe that the person that could help them defensively in the way that they need to be helped is the person they traded away. I don't think let's say you go get you like a Pat Bev or something, because let's be honest,
you can't get Pat Bev. Pat Bev is sitting pretty in Philadelphia,
but you understand
his role is perfect for what Philadelphia needs.
Yes, but this is the point that I'm trying to make. Elite perimeter defenders are always at a premium, especially when you want them to be at the guard positions, whether you're talking two guards or point guards. There's not a lot of them. The fact that the first name that came to my mind was Pat Bev is a problem, okay? So, yes, you can't if you did get Pat Bev, you can't give him the significant minutes that you need from him, and you can't put him on the court at the same time as Dame, right?
Hey,
So
maybe the Warriors should trade away Draymond Green for picks. Trade him to Milwaukee for picks.
hey, look, maybe they should. I can see that. I can see that working out better, maybe. But I can tell you this: I think because because their team was structured very specifically to complement offense and defensively. Drew Holiday was not just a piece that fit defensively and led them defensively. He was a piece that fit offensively. Now you have you're basically they need to try to replace Drew Holiday with an offensive player, Dane, and a defensive player. And it's an impossible task, Mark. I don't think there's anybody that they could go get that's going to fix their defensive flows, because without Drew Holiday being there, it's guys like Brook Lopez become more of a liability. You can't have guys running at the basket towards Brook Lopez. He's old. Okay, right. Giannis can only do so much cleanup, man.
It's crazy that Brook Lopez is still in the league, man. Wow.
Yeah, he's a dinosaur, man. He's actually I remember when he was he was like the last of the dying breed, back to the basket post player, and then now this dude is out here hitting 6 to 8 threes in games and shit, man. But my point is the team defense, the style of team defense they were able to play was because they had a lockdown defender on the perimeter. They don't have that anymore, which means now the help that has to happen on the backside is more strenuous. And Giannis can do what he can, but he can't do everything. If you're asking Chris Middleton to really be out there and try to replace Drew Holiday, then that's not going to happen, man. That's your best perimeter defender right now. And that's a problem. So I don't think there's anything that the Bucks can do to fix this with the roster that they have. I don't think there's a trade that they can make. I don't think there's a player they can pick up. So I just think that's dead. I think but once again, like I said, they need to figure out their philosophy, Mark, in their identity. And then the second thing is they need to figure out who is going to lead this team offensively. Because they need to figure out how to get Dame going. They need to figure it out. If they don't, then they're dead in the water. And Dame might need to be the lead, even though Giannis is better. That might be the only way to get both of them to get this shit. So,
because maybe you can have Giannis playing cleanup to Dame being on the outside.
They're gonna have to, but they have to figure that out. They have to figure out what their identity is. Sixers though. Right
now, it looks like it's Sixers. It looks like it's Sixers and Clippers in Denver. That's what it looks like for favorites. Like Sixers, Clippers, Denver, and everybody else is just a bunch of guys out there.
I'm gonna say it now because this is what I said before the season started. I said that I have Boston coming out of the East, and although it does look like Sixers, like what you said it is, I do understand that Boston could look different in the playoffs, and specifically because of them acquiring Drew Holiday. So I think they are built more for the playoffs than they are for the regular season. So I will be watching that situation. But as of right now, man, it's just the steamrolling going on with the Sixers and the Clippers and the Nuggets. And the Nuggets are still the Nuggets, even though they lost a couple of guys. They're still the Nuggets, man. So yeah. I will say I will be watching to see what kind of trades happen before the All-Star break. And what's going on. But I will say this, as the first year for the in-season tournament, I did like the flare-up that happened with Indiana in the Bucks but it does seem like the hype around basketball has drawn to a lull now, right before the All-Star break. So it seems like, although it was a success and people did get excited about it, it seems like the NBA is back to the NBA. But you know how this goes. People watch after the All-Star break. This is a very short lull, and I think that the NBA might have something as far as I haven't watched this many fucking games in a long time, Mark. And if you can keep my attention all the way to December,
Mm-hmm.
and then now I start watching after the All-Star break, I'm essentially taking a month and a half off, 2 months off, Mark. That's it.
Yeah.
And I'm watching basketball for most of the season. So
No, 100%, man. But yep, guys, that was the end of what we got for you. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope you enjoyed me going through my therapy process. I think I am on acceptance now. I think that's the step I'm now on.
yeah,
So,
you already you're in your grieving process. You're at acceptance now. Okay.
yeah, I think that's where I'm at. I think I'm in the acceptance stage. Thank you for
Not quite moved on yet, though. Just acceptance. Yeah.
I mean, it's still happening. So
you still accepting what they giving you right now. So I guess
right. Yeah, it's still happening.
Yeah.
So I mean, it is what it is. But thank you guys, man. I really do enjoy coming here every Tuesday and talking to you guys about this stuff and doing the podcast, man. It's fun. Hope we can do this more, and the only way we could do this more is by people subscribing, people liking, and us branching out. And hopefully I could get more videos out to you guys, and because I enjoy doing that too. I'm mad that I didn't create the R. Kelly jaw. Like I'm mad that I didn't create that one, because that's perfect. The Eagles. I'm fighting for my life here. Like I'm mad I didn't create that one, man.
Yeah.
Good.
Nah, that's just funny though, man. Well, your team is if your team ain't doing nothing, they're giving us topics every week. They're giving us a lot of things to talk about. So
yeah. I'm honestly thinking about doing just like along with this, just doing a straight up Eagles podcast.
Mark, this is coming from your partner in crime. I'm going to tell you, you should do it. Number one, you're a passionate fan, and you know, as long as you're a passionate Eagles fan, people are going to listen to you. And I've thought about doing one for the Niners. I think it'll work out better for you because of your fan base. My fan base has turned into a bunch of little a-holes. You know what I'm saying? I hate my own fan base, Mark. So these new I can't say these new naysayers. These new naysayers that we got, dog, they different, and I don't really fuck with them. So yeah, I don't know if it'll work the same for me. They ain't gonna want to watch me tune in and talk bad about Kyle Shanahan every week. So
all right, y'all. We appreciate y'all, man. Thank you. See you guys next Tuesday, man. Same bad time, same bad channel. And as always, the thoughts and opinions here are strictly our own, and it's only entertainment. Don't ever take us too seriously. Peace.
Peace.